Shalom, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to King James Bible University. I must say King James Bible University is not affiliated with any camp group, church group, Christian group, or anyone outside of the King James Bible University. I want to bring forth a lesson today titled, Bear Your Burden or Be Cut Down, and this will be part 1. Before we start the lesson, we must establish our foundation. We only teach by way of JEHOVAH, who is the Spirit and Word of the Almighty JEHOVAH. And through the sovereign King James Bible with the Apocrypha, it's the only book that we will use to bring forth His Word, His doctrines, and His teachings. So let's start with our foundational scriptures. Let's go first to the book of Psalm 119, Psalm 119, and verse 4. Psalm 119 and verse 4. Psalm 119 and verse 4. It reads, Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. From here, let's drop down to Psalms 119 and 104. It reads, Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way. So we see as we formulate our foundation, which is only through JEHOVAH, His Word, we see that we must keep the precepts diligently. And the reason why we keep the precepts diligently is through the precepts we get our understanding. Any other way outside of precepts is a false way. It's blasphemy. From here, let's go to Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah 34 and verse 16. Isaiah 34 and verse 16. It reads, Seek ye out of the book of the Spirit of God and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it have commanded, and the Spirit it have gathered them. So we must seek out of the book of the Spirit of God. Once we have kept these precepts diligently, once we utilize the precepts to get our understanding, hating any other way other than seeking out of this book and reading it, understanding that none of these books are going to fail us, understanding that none of these books need no support, no confirmation, no commentary, nothing. You don't have to match this book with any other book. This book stands alone. It's the sovereign King James Bible. It's the only book that we use. The sovereign King James Bible with the Apocrypha. It stands alone. Because the mouth of the Most High commanded it. And the Spirit, it gathered them. It gathered these books. From here, let's go to Isaiah 28 and verse 10. Isaiah 28 and 10. It reads, For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little and there a little. You got a lot of people out here who teach false doctrine. They pull one scripture with no understanding, not providing precept upon precept, precept upon precept to give the understanding. Because through the precepts we get the understanding. We open up the whole book and read. None of these books are going to fail us. From the time you open it to the time you close it. The Most High is not the author of confusion, but He delivers us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding by way of His Spirit, JEHOVAH. So from here, now that we've built our foundation, and the only foundation is JEHOVAH. He is the wisdom of the Almighty Yahweh that was separated from Him to save us from our flesh. Let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 10. Proverbs 9 and 10. It reads, the fear. Now, many people will say the desire. You could say the desire. You could say the dread, the terror. Because there's a lot of people out here who do not dread the Most High. I've seen kids who doesn't care about our Creator. I've seen men and women who don't believe in our Creator, who think He doesn't exist. They will never desire Him unless they know He exists. And once they realize He exists, then they should fear Him, because what He is able to do by destroying our souls if we don't walk in His ways and keep His laws and statutes and commandments. So the fear of the Spirit of God is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding, the separated way. From here, let's go to Philippians 2 and 12. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 12. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 12, it reads, wherefore, my beloved, my promised ones, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. With fear and trembling. This is how we work out our own soul salvation. Because no one who has knowledge of the Most High and His word, His judgment, will be ignorant of understanding what the judgment is after death. From here, let's go to Ecclesiasticus or Sirach. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach. We want chapter 1, verse 15 to 16. Ecclesiasticus or the book of Sirach, chapter 1, verse 15 to 16, it reads, she being who? JEHOVAH, the wisdom of the Most High. She hath built an everlasting foundation with men, and she shall continue with their seed. To fear the Creator is fullness of wisdom, and filleth men with her fruits. She filleth men with her fruits, her works. She built the everlasting foundation with men. She shall continue with their teachings and their doctrine. From here, let's go to Psalm 119 and verse 9. Psalm 119 and verse 9. Excuse me, wrong book. Psalm 111. Psalm 111 and verse 9. Forgive me for that, family. Psalm 111 and verse 9 and 10. It reads, He sent redemption, salvation, mercy, and deliverance unto His people. He hath commanded His covenant forever. His praise endure forever. Let me read that again. Psalms 111, verse 9 and 10. He sent redemption, which is His salvation, His mercy, and His deliverance unto His people. He hath commanded His covenant forever. Holy and reverend is His way. The fear of the Creator, the fear of the Spirit of God is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endure forever. From here, let's go to the book of Job. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 28. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 28. And I want verse 20. Verse 20, 23, 27, and 28. The book of Job, chapter 28, verse 20, verse 23, verse 27, and 28. Whence then cometh wisdom? This is a question. And where is the place of understanding? The guide understands the way thereof, and he knoweth the place thereof. Then did he see it and declare it. He prepared it, yea, and searched it out. And unto man, male and female, he said, behold, remember, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. Let's go to the book of Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 1. We want verse 13, A and B. Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 13, A and B. Thou, perfection and beauty of a more holy understanding than to behold evil, works of the flesh, and canst not look on iniquity, the acts of sin. So we know the Father, who has never came into this world, but he sent his Spirit, JEHOVAH, his word, his knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. His perfection and beauty of a more holy understanding can't even remember the works of flesh and cannot look on the acts of sin. We pay our tithes here at KJBU. We pay our tithes here at King James Bible University by bringing forth provisions from JEHOVAH to feed the sheep and edify the body of JEHOVAH, whom ye are. It doesn't matter how small the portion, as long as it adheres to JEHOVAH's standard found through our foundational standards, our foundational precepts. Let's go to the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 19, and verse 24. Chapter 19 and verse 24. Pay your tithes, whether your increase be small or large. Bring it forth. It reads, he that hath small understanding and feareth the God is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. So it doesn't matter how little you know, as long as you obey, as long as you obedient, as long as you separated from the flesh, you baptized unto Christ and walking by the Spirit by way of the separated body. It says, he that hath small understanding and fear of God is better than one that have much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. From here, let's go to the book of Tobit. Let's go to Tobit, chapter 4. We want Tobit, chapter 4. We want verses 8 and 9. Tobit 4, 8, and 9. It reads, if thou hast abundance, give alms. Accordingly, if you have but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little. For thou layest up a good treasure for thyself against the day of necessity. If thou hast an abundance, provisions, increase in wisdom, give those good works accordingly. If you have but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little. For thou layest up a good treasure, righteous wealth and riches, for thyself against the day of necessity. What is that day of necessity? It's that day that you got to pay that debt back to the Most High. Give him what you owe him. Give him that, pay that vow you vowed unto him. Our life is not ours, it's his. We belong to him. And there's going to come a day when we all have to pay up to the Creator. We need to stop thinking we know anything of this world and focus on JEHOVAH. Because if the Father didn't speak, nothing would be here. So why bother thinking with a mind of flesh? Learn these precepts and speak the oracles of the Spirit of God. From here, let's go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 14. We want 2nd Ezra. Second Ezra, chapter 14. We want verse 34 and 35. 34 and 35. It reads, therefore, for that reason, if so be that ye will subdue your own understanding and reform your hearts, you shall be kept alive after death. You shall obtain mercy. For after death shall the judgment come, when we shall live again. And then shall the names of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared. For that reason, it so be that you crucify your own understanding and renew and convert your desire, your spirit. You shall be kept alive after mortality, and that flesh perish. Ye shall obtain preservation and acceptance of the Creator. No greater thing than hear that we've been accepted by him. From here, let's go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 9. 2nd Ezra, chapter 9. 2nd Ezra, chapter 9. And we want verse 8 through 2nd Ezra, chapter 9. Verses 7 through 12. 2nd Ezra 9, 7 through 12. It reads, 2nd Ezra chapter 9, verse 7 through 12. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by his faith, whereby ye have believed. Everyone that shall be rescued and shall be able to escape by his works, by his fruits, and by his faith, his hope, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Then shall there be in pitiful case which now have abused my ways, and they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torments. For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me, and they that have loathed my law, they that have despised and rejected the doctrines and teachings, gonna dwell in torments, the punishment and the torture, the agony. says, for such as in their life, verse 10 again, have received benefits and have not known me, and they that have despised my law, my doctrines and teachings, while they yet had liberty, and as yet place of repentance, forgiveness, was open unto them, understood not, but despised it. The same must know it after death by pain, torment, and agony. From here, let's go to Hebrews. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 27. It reads, Hebrews 9 and 27. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, you can only perish once. This flesh only gonna come once. But after this is the condemnation and the damnation. It's the judgment. What will your judgment be? Will you be preserved? Will you be accepted? Or will you be tortured? Severe punishment through torment and agony, or condemnation and damnation. This is what we must allow. From here, let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 12. Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 12. Proverbs 9 and 12. If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself. But if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. It says, if thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself. But if thou blasphemeth, thou alone shalt bring it forth. You shall bear it. There was a time when I was teaching outside of King James Bible University. And this is why I welcome those that were following me before I was underneath this umbrella of King James Bible University, giving the true understanding of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of JEHOVAH. I was teaching false doctrine, camp doctrine. I was teaching that Yahushua was going to come in a spaceship. I was teaching that foolishness. Why? Because I wasn't taught the full understanding of these scriptures. I wasn't taught the foundation. I wasn't taught that precepts gives us our understanding. I wasn't taught that we only use this book, the Sovereign King James Bible with the Apocrypha, to get the understanding through the precepts. I wasn't equipped with a sword to deal with false doctrine. So I submitted to it and taught it in error. I taught in error, not understanding these scriptures, not being equipped to feed the sheep. From here, let's go to Deuteronomy 10. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 10. We want verse 12 and 13. Since I've been here at King James Bible University, I've been taught, I've been equipped with the understanding of our God, the God of the living, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I've been equipped with the foundation of keeping the precepts diligently, using the precepts to get the understanding, opening only this book, seeking no other book, using no other source other than the sovereign King James Bible with the Apocrypha to give the understanding, to feed the sheep and edify the body. Precept upon precept, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. I've been equipped to bring forth JEHOVAH's word, to bring forth his truth with no leaven, fine flour, with frankincense and oil only. It's how we bake this bread. This is how we prepare his word, his doctrines, and his teachings with no other measure. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12 and 13. And now, Israel, what does the Spirit of God, thy guide, require of thee, but to fear the Spirit of God, thy guide, to walk in all his ways, and to promise him, and to serve the Spirit of God, thy guide, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, with all our desire, our life, our will, and with our spirit. God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. I learned this here. I learned this. I got the understanding from my elders and my deacons, the brothers and sisters, what Deuteronomy 12 and 13 is really saying. And now, you servants of JEHOVAH, what does JEHOVAH, your God, require of you? But to fear JEHOVAH thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to promise him, and to serve JEHOVAH thy God with all thy desires, with all thy life, with all thy will, and with all thy spirit, to keep the commandments of JEHOVAH and his statutes, which I command thee this day for your good, for your righteousness. From here, let's go to Micah. Micah chapter 6, and we want verse 8 and 9. Micah 6, verse 8 and 9. Another thing I learned here at KJBU, underneath the elders and deacons, another thing I learned and understand, all this understanding only comes through keeping the precepts diligently. All this understanding was only gained precept upon precept, precept upon precept, precept upon precept. Only way we get understanding. Any other way is false. Taught by pastors, sent by the Spirit of God. Feeders who fed me provision, who fed me nourishment, who fed me only the showbread, the prepared knowledge and doctrine of JEHOVAH only. Micah chapter 6, verse 8 and 9. He hath showed thee, O man and woman, male and female, what is good, what is righteous. He hath showed us what is righteous. And what does the Spirit of God require of thee? But to do justly, to be wise, to do correctly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly, be submissive unto JEHOVAH. Be meek with thy God. The Spirit of God's voice crieth out, he shout, he thunder unto the city, Jerusalem, and the male or female of wisdom shall see thy way. Hear ye the rod, hear ye the correction, and the authority of JEHOVAH, and who have appointed it. Yahweh appointed JEHOVAH. From here, let's go to Exodus 20. Exodus 20. I want to go to verse 18. Exodus 20 and 18. Because, you know, our people love to go in them Christian churches. They want to hear a good, feel-good message. Well, if you want to hear a feel-good message, you better not come to this channel. You better not come to this teaching. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm only going to speak the words of JEHOVAH. And it ain't going to be nothing to feel good about. Because we in flesh. We got to understand the reason why we here. Covered in skin. Covered in flesh. Sinful people. Who need to put away the flesh. Who need to be baptized unto Christ. Renewed in our minds. Separated from this flesh. These evil thoughts. These workers of iniquity. Evil imaginations. We need to be separated from these things. Ain't no feel-good message walking around in flesh. Need to come to the knowledge of wisdom and understanding of the Most High. That you are a spiritual being that belong to Him. And the only way you're going to be accepted by Him is to put away this flesh. Why I want to make this flesh feel good and I hate it? Why I want to hear sweet words in my flesh and I hate it? I hate this flesh. I kill it every day. Exodus chapter 20, verse 18 through 20. Says, and all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings, the cry of JEHOVAH, and the noise of the trumpet, the warning coming from his prophets, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. They said, no, we want to go hear some Christian feel-good story. Prosperity preaching. Making your flesh feel good for being wicked and disgusting, dirty and filthy. Making you feel good because you're feeling sorry for everything that come down upon your flesh. Putting heaviness on your heart instead of walking by spirit and faith in JEHOVAH and holding to his ways. Instead of being a spiritual being that you're supposed to be. We rather walk around in our sorrows of our flesh, feeling sorry for ourselves. Yeah, I feel sorry that I'm in this flesh. Nothing associated with it can bring me down. I'm trying to be lifted up. It says, and all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. They said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. They always want to hear flesh. But Moses is the word of truth. He's not going to speak no good sounding words to you. He only going to speak what JEHOVAH told him to say. It says, and they said unto the word of truth, speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. Let not God speak with us, for fear that we perish. And the word of truth said unto the people, fear not. You think Moses saying desire not? He said tremble not. For God has come to prove you. He came to examine and try us. He want to know who want to get rid of that flesh. And that this fear may be before your faces. That fear was in my presence. I'm scared of the Most High. I'm scared of his judgment. I'm scared of being, I'm scared to kindle his wrath. And he not accept me and give me over to agony, torment, damnation, condemnation, the lake of fire, eternal separation from him. We got to understand there ain't no coming back from that. While we here, while we got liberty, don't hate his laws. Don't hate his doctrines and teachings. Submit to him. And understand that the flesh is your enemy. And the word of truth said unto the people, fear not, dread not, for God has come to prove you. He came to examine you. And that his fear may be before your presence, that ye sin not, that you have no evil thoughts, nor workings of the flesh. Let's go to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 13. Ecclesiastes 12, chapter 12 and verse 13. It reads, let us hear the conclusion, the end of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man, male and female. It's the only purpose he created us. It's our obligation to keep his commandments. He created us in flesh to prove us spiritual beings who want to think for themselves, who want to be burdened with the thoughts of the flesh, the desires of flesh, temporal things, earthly things, carnal things. Here's the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 25. Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 55. Who keep them commandments? Who keep them commandments? Who know the conclusion of the whole matter? Who know that the Most High is proving them? Who dread the Most High? And that dread lead to your desire in him, who you know can destroy body and soul. Leviticus 25 and 55. For unto me, the children of Israel are servants. They are my servants, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the bodies of bondage. I am the Spirit of God, your guide. Let's go to the book of Mark. Book of Mark. Chapter 12. The book of Mark, chapter 12. We want verse 26 and 27. Book of Mark, chapter 12, verse 26 and 27. Salvation speaking. And as touching the dead, that they rise. We dead. We dead. We separated from the Creator. If you here on earth walking around with filthy flesh on you, you were separated from the Creator. Understand this. And as touching the dead, separated from God, that they rise. Have you not read in the book of the word of truth how in the bush the God spake unto him, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead. He is not the God of anyone separated from him, but the God of the living, the Spirit. Ye therefore do greatly err. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 10. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 10. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26 through 31. Hebrews 10, 26 to 31. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26 to 31. For if we sin willfully, if we go astray, if we operate in the works of the flesh, if we think carnally or fleshly, willfully, arrogantly, heartily, and outright defiantly going against JEHOVAH, after that we have received, we have chosen, comprehended, understood the knowledge of the truth, there remain of no more establishing covenants for going astray in fleshly and carnal thoughts. Understand this. If we go astray, if we operate in the works of the flesh willfully, or arrogantly and defiantly against JEHOVAH, because if you understand the knowledge of the truth, if you've been baptized unto JEHOVAH, you basically saying you're gonna go astray from him, and you're gonna do it arrogantly and defiantly because you should know better. This is why this is the case. That's why the Most High ain't gonna play around right here. It says, if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remain of no more establishing covenants for sins, but a certain fearful. You think that's desirable? But a certain fearful, dreadful, terrifying, looking for of judgment, condemnation, and damnation, and fiery indignation. That's destruction and wrath upon your soul, which shall devour, consume the adversaries. He that despised, he that rejected and hated the word of truth law, his spirit and them precepts, died without mercy, no pity and no forgiveness, under 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more sore, how much more severe punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy, who have trodden under foot the servant of God, and have counted the lifestyle of the covenant, the obedience to JEHOVAH. You just walking over the covenant to the obedience of JEHOVAH, wherewith he was sanctified, separated, and dedicated, unholy. You calling the lifestyle of the covenant filthy. You calling it common. It's just a regular thing to you. Let me read that again. Of how much more severe punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy, who have trodden under foot the servant of God, and have counted the lifestyle of the covenant, have counted the lifestyle of the obedience to JEHOVAH, wherewith he was sanctified, separated, and dedicated, an unholy thing. You saying it's filthy, and have done despite unto the Spirit of grace. For we know him that have said, vengeance, the Most High, he want revenge. Somebody got to pay. For we know him that said, somebody got to pay unto me. I will recompense, saith the Creator. And again, the Creator shall judge his people. He teaching us right now how to be accepted, how to escape this vengeance, because he gonna pay. He gonna get his revenge on all his enemies. those who hate it and despise its doctrines and teachings. It is a fearful thing. That's not no desirable thing. It is a fearful thing to fall in the hands, in the powers and the violence of the living God. So this lesson is called Bear Your Burden or Be Cut Down. I was at a friend's house recently. He had a pear tree. And this particular year, his pear tree would not produce any fruit. Most fruit trees produce fruit biannually. They don't produce fruit every year. Some trees take anywhere between 2 to 7 years after planting before they produce any fruit at all. Keep this in mind. Romans 1:20. Romans chapter 1 and verse 20. It reads, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." All the creation of the Most High, we look at, we learn from. It gives us understanding of him. When I seen that pear tree without fruit this year, it's got leaves, covered in leaves. Most trees you can identify only by the fruit that it produces. Same with Israel, being the symbolic meaning of the servants of JEHOVAH, being that fig tree. You only know that they're the servants of JEHOVAH when that fruit is produced. But we got to keep in mind that sometimes a tree don't produce fruit as soon as it's planted. Sometimes you got to have patience like the Father. Let's go to John 15:1. Let's go to John. The book of John, chapter 15. We want verse 1, 2, 5, and 6. 15, 1, 2, 5, and 6. It reads, "I am the true vine." JEHOVAH say he the true way. He the true path. But where he going to take you at? He going to take you to the Father. Understand how a vine, when you see a vine in nature, it grows up. A vine doesn't grow down. It goes up to the light. The invisible things of him are clearly seen. A vine goes up, and those branches, which are the servants of JEHOVAH, they attach themselves or they extend from him, and they want to go up with JEHOVAH. He says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch of me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. Every servant in me that doesn't bring forth fruit produced from labor or his works, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, every branch that bringeth forth fruit, every servant putting in work, he purgeth, he purifies, he prunes it. Why do you prune a tree? The invisible things of him. When you grow in a tree, if you don't prune it, the tree will spend all its resources in trying to get bigger. But when you prune it, it spends less resources trying to exalt itself, but it uses more resources in producing fruit. She says, every branch, every servant in me that bringeth not works, he taketh away. And every servant that beareth fruit, that bringeth forth works, produced from labor, he purgeth it, he prunes it, he purifies it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Verse 5, I am divine, Jehovah is divine. He the way, he the path unto the Most High. Ye are the branches, ye are the servants. I showed you that in Leviticus 25:55. You say you Israel, you the branches, you the servants. Where your fruit at? Don't get cut down. Bear your burden. Bring forth your tribute. Bring forth doctrines and teachings. Bring forth that foundation. It says, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, if a male or female abide not in Jehovah, he is cast forth as a servant and is withered. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Let's go to Luke chapter 13. Luke chapter 13. We want verse 6, 7. We want Luke chapter 13, verse 6 through 9. Keep in mind, the invisible things of him, clearly seen, and understand the patience of the Creator. A fruit tree. Doesn't matter which one you're talking about. There's many of them. You got pear trees, apple trees, fig trees, olive trees. Some of them take anywhere between 3 to 7 years before they produce any fruit. The invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen. Luke chapter 13, verse 6 through 9. He spake also this parable, salvation speaking. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, and found none. Then said he unto the dresser of the vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why cumbereth it to the ground? And he answered and said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dung it. And if it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down. Some trees need assistance in order to bring forth fruit. Sometimes in our efforts, we got to prepare that tree. Sometime in our efforts, we got to provide nourishment for that tree so that it may bring forth fruit. But after we prepare in our efforts and provide the nourishment needed for that tree to produce fruit and it doesn't, it's got to be cut down. Let's go to Mark chapter 11. Mark chapter 11. You see, me, I was provided those nutrients, that nourishment by the teachers after the Most High own heart. Here at KJBU, elders and deacons, they provided me with that nourishment. In their efforts, they prepared me so that I may produce fruit. So I didn't get cut down. Mark chapter 11. We want verse 13. 13, 20, and 21. Mark chapter 11, verse 13, 20, and 21. It reads, and seeing a fig tree afar off having leaves. I saw that pear tree with leaves on it. No fruit. And seeing a fig tree afar off having leaves, he came, if haply he might find anything thereon. And when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for the time of the figs was not yet. The time of the fruit was not yet. And before we go any further, I want to establish these definitions of that's fundamental to this lesson. To bear means to produce, yield, bring forth, submit, carry, and endure. The burden is the obligation, the tribute, the responsibilities, the service, the servitude, the yoke, the doctrines and teachings. The bearing, the bringing forth, the enduring, the foundation, the pillar, and the labor. Those figs are prosperity, peace, judgment. We know that's doctrines and teachings. The blessing, which is the wisdom of the Most High. Naturally sweet. Divine judgment, peace, and security. The fig tree is a symbol of Israel. It's a symbol of JEHOVAH's servants. That symbol is a mark, the likeness, the evidence, and the sign of who they are. I had no sign or no evidence that there was a pear tree, but I recognized it because it had leaves all over it, but no fruit. No one is pruning that pear tree. That pear tree hasn't been pruned. It hasn't been provided any nourishment. So it's exerting all its energy to exalt itself and producing no fruit. Let's read that again. The book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 13. And seeing a fig tree afar off, having leaves, he came if haply he might find anything thereon. And when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for the time of the figs was not yet. He found a fig tree. He found a symbol of Israel. Something that looked like it was in the likeness of Israel. But there was no doctrines and teachings. There was no divine judgment, prosperity, or peace or wisdom found on it. And in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. They found the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, calling to remember, said unto him, Master, behold, the fig tree which thou cursest is withered away. Understand. Either we blessed or we curse. Either we got wisdom or we got problems. From here, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, because we got to understand, even in our efforts to prepare this tree, even in our efforts to provide nourishment, the necessary provision for this tree to produce fruit, it's not going to be of our own will. It's always going to be based upon the Creator. We always got to keep that in mind. Never think that you something. Remember that you wicked flesh. Remember that we are here to be proven, each and every one of us. Don't ever try to think that you're above another. Always remain humble. Always remain meek and walk humbly with your God. As we read in Micah chapter 6 and verse 8. It says, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 7 through 9. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither is he in his own efforts to try to establish this tree anything. Neither he that watereth it, neither he that provide provision and sustenance for it, but God that giveth the increase. Now he that planteth and he that watereth are one. And every man, every male or female shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with God. Ye are God's husbandry, and ye are God's building. From here, let's go to Numbers. Let's go to Numbers and understand our forefathers. No man can do this alone, and no man can do it without the Spirit of God. We got to always remember that. Doesn't matter how many we got in the congregation. If we're not doing it in JEHOVAH, we're going to fail. We just flesh. Numbers chapter 11, verse 11, 14. And I want to jump down to 17. Numbers chapter 11, verse 11, 14, and 17. It reads, And the word of truth said unto the Spirit of God, For what reason hast thou afflicted thy servant, thy branch? The servant said unto the vine, For what reason hast thou afflicted thy servant? And for wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Moses in his efforts, establishing trees, providing nourishment for the people through JEHOVAH. He says, I am not able to bear all this people alone because it is too heavy for me. JEHOVAH said, And I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and will put it upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear it not thyself alone. So even though the Most High give the increase, it's our responsibilities. It's our responsibility to bear the burden, to produce, to bring forth, to endure, to carry the obligation, the tribute, the responsibilities, the service, the servitude, the doctrines and teachings, the foundation, the pillar, and the labor. We don't do it alone. A body is made of many members, but JEHOVAH is the head. Many fruit trees have the inherent characteristic of flowering every other year. This is usually prominent on apples and pears. Like I said, I saw a pear tree with no fruit on it. It had fruit on it last year, but it ain't going to produce no fruit this year. Fruit trees form flowers for a crop the previous year. If too many fruits sat on a tree, they will inhibit flower inundation, inundation, and development for the next year. Some fruit trees tend to produce fruit every other year, a phenomenon known as biennial. See, people with wisdom of the word think it's a phenomenon. We see it as the invisible things of him. When a tree produces a large crop, it uses a lot of its energy to develop the fruit. This leaves less energy for flower bud formation for the next year. A heavy crop can suppress the development of flower buds for the following year as the tree prioritizes resources for the current fruit. Younger trees may be more susceptible to biennial burn than older, established trees. Younger trees are more susceptible to not producing fruit every year than older, established trees. Environmental factors, the things that wear down on the flesh, stress like drought or nutrient deficiencies, can also contribute to not bringing forth fruit every year. From here, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 11. Deuteronomy chapter 11. Deuteronomy chapter 11. We want verse 10. We want verse 10 all the way down to 18. Deuteronomy 11, 10. Down to 18. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 10 to 18 reads, "For the land, whither thou goest in to possess it, is not as the land of Egypt, not as the people of bondage, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest, where thou plant thy seed, thy own word and teachings, and waters and nourish it with thy foot, thy desire, as a garden of herbs." The land that the Most High gave us is not like that land of the bondage from where we came from, where we planted our own teachings and words and nourished it with our own desire. But the land, whether ye go to possess it, it is a land of hills and valleys and drink of water of the rain of heaven. But this place, whether we go to possess it, is a land of hills and valleys that drink of water, that drink of understanding of the doctrines and teachings of heaven, the spirit of salvation. A land which the Spirit of God thy God careth for. For the eyes of the Spirit of God thy God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to promise the Spirit of God your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your spirit and all your mind, all your will and all your might, that I will give you the rain, that I will give you the doctrines and teachings of your land in his due season, his appointed time, in his harvest. Every tree not going to produce fruit the first year they're planted. Some trees take 3 to 7 years. Younger trees are not going to produce fruit every year like an older tree will. The first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thy oil. And I will send grass abundance in thy fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full, that thou mayest learn and be full. Take heed to yourself, that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods, false gods, and worship them. And then the Spirit of God's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven, that there be no rain, that there be no knowledge, no doctrines and teachings, and that the land yield not her fruit, that fruit tree produce no works, that fruit tree don't have that symbol, that sign or that mark, being his servant. And fear ye perish quickly from off the good land which the Spirit of God giveth you. For that reason ye shall lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your power, that they may be as frontlets, defenses. A sign between your eye, your understandings. I gotta read that again. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 11. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 10 through 18. For the land whither thou goest in to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest thy seed and waters it with thy foot as a garden of herbs. But the land which ye go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drink of water of the rain of heaven. A land which the Spirit of God thy God careth for the eyes of the Spirit of God thy God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to promise the Spirit of God your God, and to serve him with all your heart, all your will, all your mind, and with all your spirit, that I will give you that knowledge, that doctrine, some teachings of your land in his appointed time, in his harvest. The first rain, the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil. And I will send grass in thy fields, that abundance for thy cattle, thy beasts of burden, that thou mayest eat and be full. Take heed to yourself that your heart, your will, your mind be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve false gods and worship them. And then the Spirit of God's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, unless ye perish quickly from off the good land which the Spirit of God giveth you. For that reason shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, in your thoughts, your mind, your will, your desire, and in your spirit, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, your power, that they may be as front as a defense between your eyes, your understanding. With these trees I see, if the flowers are damaged by weather, frost, or other issues, no fruit will form. Third, apple trees' flowers must be pollinated by another apple tree in order to form an apple. This occurs naturally when bees and other insects move from one apple tree to another. If you have no bees, you won't get any fruit. So we see these things happen naturally. The invisible things of him, clearly seen by things that are made. We see these things naturally occurring. A flower being damaged by weather, frost, or other issues will not form any fruit. Apple trees must be pollinated by another apple tree in order to form an apple. This occurs naturally when bees and other insects move from one apple tree to another. If you have no bees, you won't get any fruit. Let's go to Proverbs 27 and get an understanding of that. Proverbs 27. Proverbs 27 and verse 17. It reads, iron sharpeneth iron, servants sharpen of servants. So a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. Servants sharpen of servants. So a male or female sharpeneth the form, the image, and the appearance. That's that fruit. That fruit is a sign on that fig tree to show you it's a servant of JEHOVAH. But guess what? That servant sharpening that servant. the sharpener of the form, the image and appearance of his friend, his companion, his neighbor, his brethren, his equals. Let's go to Jeremiah. Let's go to Jeremiah. Because there's always two sides to the story. We know that. You got good and evil. You got light and dark. They separated. But we got to understand both. Jeremiah 11, 16 through 19. That's going to be our last scripture as we close out part 1. Jeremiah 11, verse 16 through 19. It reads, "The Spirit of God called thy way, a green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit, with the noise of a great tumult. He hath kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken off." The Spirit of God called thy way, a green olive tree, a tree of life, fair, pure and faithful, and of goodly fruit, excellent works, with the sound of a great tumult, the declaration of insurrection, those who refuse to keep his commandments. How many scriptures have I read what the servants of JEHOVAH are required to do? JEHOVAH with a sound, with thunder and lightning, declared insurrection. He hath kindled fire upon it, and the servants of it are broken. Servants that broke the covenant. For the Spirit of God of hosts that planted thee have pronounced evil against thee. That's that judgment and that terror. That's that damnation, that destruction. For the evil of the house of Israel and of the house of Judah, the servants of JEHOVAH, his promised ones, his beloved ones, the ones of his praise, which they have done against themselves, to provoke me to anger, and offering incense unto Baal, making a covenant with false gods of the world, of the flesh, of the dead. Remember, he's not the God of the dead. Those gods are nothing. And the Spirit of God hath given me knowledge of it, and I know it. Then thou showest me their doings. I got to read this again. It says the Spirit of, let's read this again. Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 16 and 19 as we close out. Part 1. The Spirit of God called thy way, a green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit, with the noise of a great tumult. He hath kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken. So the Spirit of God called our way, the tree of life, pure and faithful, of excellent work. But with that thunder and lightning, he declared an insurrection. He hath kindled a fire upon it, and the branches, the servants, broke the covenant. For the Spirit of God of hosts that planted thee have pronounced evil against thee. For the evil of the house of Israel and the house of Judah, which they have done against themselves to provoke me to anger, in offering incense unto the gods of flesh. And the Spirit of God hath given me knowledge of it, and I know it. Then thou showest me their doings. But I was like a lamb. I was like a follower of JEHOVAH, or an ox, a beast of burden, that is brought to the slaughter. And I knew not that they had devised devices against me. saying, let us destroy the tree with the fruit thereof, and let us cut him off from the land of the living, that his way may be no more remembered. We want to conclude part 1, and we'll pick it up part 2. I want to say shalom to everyone. Hope someone was greatly edified by this lesson. Hope someone salah this lesson. And understand that the visible things of him are clearly seen by the things that he made. The visible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Let's be patient, family, and understand. Have an understanding of these things that he made, and understand our God. He's a spirit. The wind bloweth where it listeth. Some trees take 3 to 7 years to produce fruit. Younger trees don't produce fruit every year like an older tree. No matter how much we put in effort, no matter how much we provide the provision, the substance, and the nourishment, it's always going to be based upon the Creator to give that increase. Shalom, family. Shalom.